All right, we're loading. All right, you guys, here we are. Welcome to another Tuesday. We are back, you guys. Today is an unusual day. Today is a brand new day. And today I am joined by my friend, by my colleague, by my partner in this nonprofit Nuggets Live crime, in a good way. Mm-hmm. We are here today to talk about more nonprofit nuggets, and specifically as it relates to, drum roll please, I have heard it called everything from the corona, the CV, all of the nicknames associated with this virus, this plague, this pandemic, as it has been named as well. So we're going to have a conversation. We're going to talk about how we as nonprofit organizations can respond from the leadership perspective. But first, we would like for you to share, to like, and to subscribe to make sure that you are notified when we come on. Hey, Zakia.
Hey, coming to you live from my bedroom because what's happening, Jen? What's happening? No, I'm kidding, kind of. Yeah, I call it the Rona. I don't know if that's appropriate, but it is one of the the ways that I keep this light for myself. I'm like, the Rona is out here messing up people's plans, okay? And I've been at home since Friday. Yeah, I made a conscious decision on Friday. I told my husband, I've gone out. I went to the store a couple of times, and I went today to get the school packets, and we'll get into that later, I'm sure, Jen. But yeah, I told my husband on Friday before it really started to like escalate. I said, I don't think I want them in school next week. And he's like, what? You're overreacting. And here we are. I was like, I don't really care what they say. I don't think my kids are gonna be in school next week. And I mean, he looked at me. I mean, I wish it was a text message exchange so that I could show him, so that I had proof. And he was like, "Be real." And now none of us, I shut down Seeds, and he works at the CMA, which is the Columbia Museum of Art. I'm here in Columbia, South Carolina, guys, and it's one of the biggest nonprofits in our city. And they've decided to close for 2 weeks. And people were really shocked by that because them in the library usually, like, no matter what's going on, I'm talking snow days, no matter what, they're like, we have stuff for you to do. And they were like, yeah, go home. Stay at home. It's interesting. Strange times, dude.
Well, it is interesting times. And one of the things that I wanted us to talk about today are some of the ways that the nonprofit is responding to this time. As you and I were talking before we went live, it's like this is a new day. We've never been this way before. But it's something that we're going to have to get adjusted to. I mean, like you said, hospitals are having to respond. I mean, you don't even have to get out of your car to come in and to get the checks, and the way in which systems that appear to have been broken previously are all of a sudden being able to be worked out, which is a good thing. This is not a disparaging conversation. This is the opportunity for us to examine what can be done, and hopefully will continue to be done well beyond this virus. I'm a person that believes that everything works together for the good. I'm just a person that believes we may have to go through a storm to get to the rainbow, but when we get to the rainbow, it's like, look at how beautiful the rainbow is. Do you remember how bad the storm was? But look at how beautiful the rainbow is. And we're always drawn to, I want to see it from the beginning. Where does it end? It's just like, I think that that's just a part of the life. That's just what I believe personally. And that's how I try to approach things that are really dark and stormy. And not at all a person that buries my head in the sand. I don't think so. Do you think I do that, Zakia? Do you think I bury my head in the sand?
No, not at all. No, you don't. No, I come to you sometimes screaming and on fire. You're like, but aren't you warm? And I'm like, I'm burning. I'm just kidding. No, you have a way of I think in this situation, which is I think a testament to the growth that I've I'm growing.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I see you as someone who's always like, okay, it's bad, but what can we do? And if it's nothing, it's like, well, we wait. And if it's something, it's like, then we need to get to work. And
Yeah.
I think that's what I appreciate about having you around, Lady Jen. And I mean, in this instance and instances before, like, I mean, literally when I've come to you in crisis with my nonprofit Seeds, I know people have been watching us, but some people who haven't. Jen is my coach, and I run a nonprofit here in Columbia, South Carolina. We've been around now for like oh my
7 years.
gosh,
I know. I'm
yeah,
counting.
7
I'm
years.
counting.
You are. I'm like 7 years. And we've been through some stuff, y'all. There have been some moments where I'm like, I don't know what to do. And she's like, oh, you just wait that out. You do nothing, or you do this. Here are the steps. And I think it is really valuable to have someone like you in my corner and the corners of. I know you have a very large network during times like this because people are panicked. And I
Yeah.
think while people like you and I, because again I've grown, have maybe a lens to say this is going to be all right, y'all. We're going to be fine if we exercise wisdom and responsibility, we will be fine. Um, Instead of you know going to doomsday kind of reactions, which is not productive. That doesn't help anybody. It just doesn't.
Well, one of the things that I am really excited about right now are, the opportunities. I hear a lot about
Mm.
organizations who are struggling to respond, people who had events. This is a big season with Mother's Day coming up. A lot of organizations had Mother's Day events. A lot of organizations had events around graduations and scholarships, preparing
Mhm.
for those things. And then you have an unforeseen emergency. And for those of you guys who don't know, I used to work for I was an executive director of an American Red Cross. And you never know when there's going to be an emergency. You never know when there's going to be a crisis. But one of the things that I learned well before then, but you always have to be ready for it, right? As ready
Mhm.
as possible. And so one of the gifts that I learned from that organization is the preparedness plan, that you prepare before the emergency.
Mhm.
Once the house is on fire, literally is not the time to start gathering, baggies with all of your medications in it and, running through the house trying to get a safe place for where's the flashlight, where are my shoes, where, that's not the time to start preparing.
Right.
And I think that for the nonprofit, many of us have a mindset of operating day to day without preparing. Now,
Mhm.
there's two ways to think about this. You could say, but Jen, I don't have enough now. Like, I don't have enough. So, how do I prepare? And
Mhm.
I've been saying it's always the same thing. You have a community, you have a need, you have an impact. And in the midst of crisis is when your organization is needed more than ever. I always say that organization leadership, not the passion, not just the program, but the confident leadership that even when you have to make a decision to shut down, confidently, as you as a leader say, all right, this is a time that we have to shut down. It's going to be uncomfortable. We've never had to do this before. But on the other side of this, everything is going to be fine. And while you're shut down, what are the opportunities that you have, right? You have the opportunity to look at your budget. You have the opportunity to look at where have you been connecting with your donors and your contributors up until this point. You have an opportunity now to focus as you may not have had in the day to day of everything going crazy,
Mhm.
right? So I just want us to look at the opportunities that we have. For some of us who have children, I don't have any. Not that I'm laughing at you who do, but
Woo, child. We had a Play-Doh meltdown about 12 minutes before I got down on this call. Okay. like, why is this turning into a crisis? Play-Doh, it's supposed to
Oh
be
my
fun. I'm sorry,
God.
I'm distracted. You triggered me. You
That's
triggered me
it.
with your
That's it.
laughter.
That's it.
Triggered. Yeah.
But
Those of them
listen,
who don't have children, go back. Get back on subject. Sorry. Whew.
those that have children who have
Hmm.
to now navigate, homeschooling and schooling, can't drop it off at childcare, like you used to, and get that break from the diaper change, and oh wait, they need to eat, and oh wait, it's nap time, and what time is, all of that. I just want us as leaders to pause and really assess, what have we prepared for and what have we not prepared for in the area of our donor cultivation. We can still talk to our donors. We can still check on our donors. We can still say our offices are closed, but we want you to know that you are on our mind, not just the people that we serve. I found that when I was going through 9/11, I've gone through a couple of crises in the nonprofit world, having to connect with donors and raise money through Katrina, through 9/11, through the tsunami, through the last financial crisis. My mom and I were talking about this. Which Bush was in the office? Not to say anything was, it wasn't the Bush's fault, but anyway, that there was a whole crisis. I think it was like 2006, 2007,
Hmm.
2008,
Baby
when,
Bush.
yeah, baby Bush. When the whole, there was a huge recession. I mean, not President Bush, not baby. Anyway, so there we are
The
not
Rona.
having
The
a
Rona. The Rona has broken my filter. I am so
with
sorry.
all due
President,
respect, our previous
President, the
President
younger
Bush,
one.
our President Bush, um, when we were going through that financial crisis, and
Hmm.
people were losing their homes, people were losing their jobs, and it was at that moment that we had an opportunity to turn towards our
Hmm.
supporters and just to check on them. How are
Yeah.
you? Do you need anything? I had many major donors at that time who lost their businesses, they lost their
Mm.
homes, and they were feeling very badly. Not only had their world been changed, right? They came from a place of influence to now they're having to lay off staff. They're having to go through those mental and emotional and health crises themselves, where they feel like they failed, where they were a provider for people. Now they're having to say we no longer can keep our doors open. And I don't know if it's I just naturally felt like we can do something right here. And
Hmm.
if it was pick up the phone and call our donors to say, you have been so consistent and thoughtful and giving towards us, I personally want to call you and see how you're doing. Is there anything that we can do for you? Now,
Hmm.
I'm always genuine. I'm not a person that believes that you capitalize on anything. I'm not a person that, takes an opportunity to take
Right.
advantage of somebody. I'm not that. However, I do see an opportunity for us to build relationship, for us to
Hmm.
strengthen relationship, for us to really show ourselves as partners in the community, not just when we need something or when we're wanting and asking, but how do
Mm.
we give that back to our donors and our supporters? And that goes a long way. That even after the crisis was over, many of our donors who gave at one level increased their giving when their businesses came back. Why? Because they appreciated us caring for them beyond their check that they could give, because there were times when they couldn't give. And
Hmm.
those that could, they gave more. Why? Because they saw the value in our work.
Right.
Is what I'm saying making sense?
It does, Jen. I think what you're saying essentially is this is a really good time to just be a good neighbor and a good community member and to say, hey, oddly enough, for the first time that I can remember, we are all experiencing the exact same, like some version of the same thing.
Yeah.
This the word pandemic is so strange to me because I'm like, there's literally no one on earth who is not being affected by it.
Yeah.
There are things that happen. Sometimes you're like, oh, there's this thing happening in Europe. There's this thing happening. This is it's all over.
Mhm.
And so I think what you're saying is the least we could do is reach out and say, hey, we know this is a stressful time for a lot of us.
Mhm.
We hope that you're well. If there's anything that we can offer, I'm gonna whisper virtually. Then, and I know there are so many different types of nonprofits, but I think what you're saying is just reach out and don't go radio silent, which is a totally fair um offering. I do have a counter, Jen, of course, I think when you said earlier, that this is an opportunity, and you think about nonprofit leaders and EDs with children or without, whoever, right? Who are in this work every day and are so burnt out, and are, the people that you talk to, Jen, who are just in tears because they're like, I want to do this. I know this is important, but I'm losing my mind. This is
Mhm.
an opportunity for you to say, hey, we're shutting it down because everyone says we should, and we'll check in with you guys about a week or so, and let you know. But for now, we're just gonna rest and actually do that.
Yeah.
And especially as leaders, when I say, you do it, give your staff the grace to do so as well. I was talking to a friend this morning who works for a large nonprofit here locally, and she said that they have this 9:30 a.m. conference call thing every day, and some of the people in the because you have like the Zoom frame so you can see what's going on in people's
Mhm.
background. And I'm trying not to laugh, but it was so funny to me. She says there are like kids and dogs running around everywhere, and she's like, it's insanity. I'm sorry, it's insanity. She's like, I just don't understand. Why are we doing this? And I'm like, I'm I'm trying. I'm trying because
Yeah.
I know that I have a tendency, and it's something I'm working on, to be a little critical of people who are overly committed to productivity.
Mhm.
Jen, over this last year, I've really prioritized authenticity and just
Yeah.
not getting caught up in other people's expectations of my production, whatever that means, at home, at work, wherever. And so I think this is an opportunity for people to be honest with themselves and really assess what it is that they need in this time first. Because let's be really honest, if you're paying attention to the news and stuff like that, there's a lot of really scary stuff being said. Like it can be unsettling. And so if it's in your best interest to just unplug and maybe step away from your work and just be with your family, and if you're single or not a mom or whatever, be with yourself, then do that. Give yourself time to do that. Because I have a funny feeling. I mean, they're saying 2 weeks, but I have a funny feeling we're gonna have a lot more time to do this work.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere. It never has. Has it ever gone anywhere, Jen? Has the work ever gone anywhere?
Never gone anywhere. And I
It'll be
am,
right there.
yeah, it's going to be right there.
Yeah.
I too agree that no one should put undue pressure on themselves to do what they don't have the capacity to do mentally,
Hmm.
emotionally, physically, even within the organization. I want to do more. I want to help. I want to help.
Right.
But it's like, you've got to be able to really think through and take care of yourself before you can
Hmm.
turn around and take your panic, manic, and all of that out into the community, because that's not a helpful look.
It's
Now,
not.
on the other end of the spectrum, I mean, like well over on the other end of the spectrum, I'm a person that says, what more could some of us do
Hmm.
if, in fact, we've just been kind of sitting in the cut?
Sorry.
Um,
Do you
you
know what's
know,
really funny? I'm sorry.
huh?
First of all, Jen, I can't see you. Is it only me right now? I can't see you.
It's no, I can see you.
It's like double me. I see like two of myself, and that's a little unsettling. But so
All
I
right.
don't know.
How about
Sorry, but there it is.
how about
There it is.
that? There it is.
Right.
There it is.
But did
Okay.
you see where I cut out a minute ago?
Uh-huh.
One of my
Uh-huh.
funders just called me. I'm like, what could you
Oh.
possibly? Hello, but go to sleep. I'm just kidding. It's just funny that that happens in the middle of this. That's hilarious to me that I just got a
That's
call.
funny.
It's fine. I'll call her back. She's also a friend, and I think she's which is what I appreciate about uh when I hear you talk about partnership. I really consider my funders partners. Is one of the things I appreciate about what we've been able to do in our community is that I can see her calling me really to just be like, I just want to check on you, and not be
Yeah.
like, but about that report. Like I don't feel like that's what's coming. If it is, she can have it. But I feel like what you're describing is sort of what's been happening already. Is people are just saying, we just want to make sure that everybody's okay. But
Yeah.
anyway, I can see you now again, so I feel better. That was so weird. It's like two of me.
Well, what I was saying was that, those of us who, or me possibly, who's on the other side of the spectrum, who am a
Mhm.
person who says, what can I do to help? I'm that person that shows up. And if I
Mhm.
can't, I won't, I can't, and I say I can't. But if there is
Right.
something that can be done, and it may not be on the scale of what we may have wanted to do or previously have done, but if it is something that you can do, then do it.
Mhm.
Even if it's the phone call, if it's the, pick up the phone. Um, you mentioned something about all that's being said, and we were talking in the title about myths, people who
Mhm.
initially were starting this whole myth about Black people cannot get the coronavirus, and I thought, what Yahoo came up with that? And it now has become a fable. It's amazing how a fable and a lie will spread quicker than the truth. That's the
That
amazing thing to
I find that one particularly entertaining.
me.
It is my favorite one for obvious reasons, but it's just entertaining. Did people really believe that? Were there people who
Yes,
really believed?
people were like, "Oh yeah, Black people can't get it," because I'm like, "Listen, we're not the ones that are on the news. We're not the ones that have the most to lose at this point,
Mhm.
in terms of the scope." And
Mhm.
yeah, no, that's crazy, crazy man. Or
Insanity.
someone who
But
said, um, "It's the melanin in our skin is like a barrier to the virus, and so we will not be able to get it because of the melanin in our skin." And I thought, and you said that with a straight face and you
Wakanda
believe it.
forever, Jen. We can't get it. I stand by that myth. I am standing on it. It's just fun to me. It is a fun one. I have to say, it
Oh,
entertains me in such a way that I
yeah.
am I am willing to let it go. Like I wouldn't even correct anybody at this point. I'd be like, "Girl, you right.
What
You're
I think
safe."
is hilarious is that you go to the grocery store, you got the whole
Mhm.
mask on, right? You got all the wipes, you got all the wipes, you got all the wipes, you're sanitizing in the line, all of that. And then you get up to the swipey card, the
Mhm.
machine that everybody and their mother's hands have been on, and you start pushing buttons to
Do
get
you
the
wanna know my
check.
hack? Do you wanna know my machine hack?
What's your machine at?
My nails are
The
so
nails.
long. And the man in line behind me today was laughing so hard. He was like, "You're really not gonna touch that." I was like, "I'm not, and you better not touch me. Back up." Why are you talking in my direction?
Six
Back
feet, 6 feet.
away.
I said 6 feet.
I had to tell someone in line earlier, like I want to lift this up and be really honest. Jen. I do not feel panicked about this. I only begin to feel panic when people are being ridiculous and
Yeah,
reckless. Like,
yeah.
do not come to my house right now. Call me.
Mhm,
Do not touch me unnecessarily. And don't like we're in this line, this whole girl. Why are you so close to me?
yeah,
He was
yeah.
so close. And I kind of said jokingly, like, yeah, and don't touch me. But I was like, what? Why are you able to touch me? Why are you that close? And maybe you believe that Black people can't
Listen,
get it. Maybe
I
that's why you don't feel unsafe around me.
I think social distancing is well overdue,
Yeah,
personally. Personally, I think it is. I
I,
personally think that some of
I
the
do.
habits that we are now being admonished and held to a standard to conduct, I think they are long over. I've always maintained if your behind is sick, stay home. I've always said, do not cough in your hand, cough in your shirt, so that you then are not coming up after all of this hand action wanting to extend it to me later. I have always said that. And when people have for years, coughing and sneezing without covering your mouth is just rude. It's rude.
It's
It's
gross.
rude.
It's gross. And all of that is heightened right now. For
Yeah,
sure.
for
For
sure.
sure, Jen. I mean, I also just think social distancing is really fun. And I like being in my house. I just have to be honest about this. There was no part of me that was sad when they said, I was like, yes, thank you. I don't want people to be sick. I don't want, you know what I mean? And hear my heart.
Mhm.
But the part of this that is upsetting for me is not that I get to be in my home with people that I love. And I'm going to say it.
Mhm.
I think there are some people who are not used to having to have this much downtime
Mhm.
with their loved ones. And for those of us who live alone with themselves,
Mhm.
and while that can be isolating and anxiety, inducing for those of us who have, I don't want to diminish any
Mhm.
of those concerns. But there are some of us who have some stuff, and we've been talking about mental health, Jen, that
Yeah.
we just need to face, that we can't run from in a time like this. You
Mhm.
cannot busy yourself
Mhm.
when, I don't want to say the president, okay, when the president is
Mhm.
saying, and all the powers that be, these medical professionals, the
Mhm.
CDC, they're saying, stay at home, please. Watch
And
your
common
Netflix, eat your
sense. I
snacks.
mean, it's really common sense. Stay at
Mhm,
home. I
mhm,
live with my mom, and my biggest
mhm.
concern is that I drag some germ that's latched itself onto me where I may not have any of the symptoms, but I'm concerned about her not that she's sickly, but you never know. My
Yeah,
when my stepfather was living, and yet today's his birthday, he would have been
happy birthday, Leo.
105 today. He would have been 105
Wow.
today.
I
Um,
would have loved to hear what he had to say. That would have been so good, Jen.
I think I have a couple of videos that I did when way back in when Periscope days, maybe 3 or 4 days ago, 3 or 4 years
Mhm,
ago, where he
mhm,
talked about, being in the army and having segregation and not being able to,
mm,
go into places and being, able to vote. I mean, he had amazing stories. He had amazing stories.
mhm,
But I was always very concerned about people being around him because, his immune
mhm.
system at that time was not the best, and able to
Right.
fight off germs. And so, in this time when we are, like you saying, facing this virus where we are all but forced to stay in the house, the
Mhm,
opportunities that we have, we can clean those things that we have not been wanting to do. We could do those projects. We could, just really spend quality time and get to
mhm.
know and connect with family members that we've not seen but in passing. In many cases, we may see our kids 3, 4 hours a day out of 24. It's like at bedtime and at tub time, and then it's right to bed. That now
And
we
with
get
homework, there's not a lot of just downtime. Yeah.
and now being able to the homeschooling, get your work done during the day so that even they have a better mental health experience of having
Mhm,
to go to school all day, wake up before dawn, before the daylight is still dark 100 hours, and they're shaking out of their bed and their sleep is interrupted and they're having to eat when they are not hungry because it's breakfast and we got to send you to school and you got to sit up and follow rules all day and then come home and do homework and all of this running and busying around even for the children. I'm like, this is a time that
an
everybody
opportunity.
gets to woosah
An
and
opportunity.
reclaim yourself, your sanity, your connectedness, right? If you all
Mhm.
have been too busy to have a healthy argument with your loved ones, now is the time to
Here it
sit.
comes. Here it comes.
Exactly. Now is the time that we can't run, we can't hide. Let's have a healthy conversation. We got time to go to a separate room and come back.
We will reconvene this after our seventh snack,
Yes.
Doritos. After Dorito time, we will reconvene this conversation. You're right, Jen. You're right. It's an opportunity, especially the part you said about, not having to yank them out of bed and drag them down tap. I feel so relieved, and not even just like that, you don't have to do anything. We did implement a no TV before
Mhm,
12 rule because I know that's something that in our
yeah,
house, they only get on the weekends. So
mhm.
they are like, we can watch Netflix. I'm like, you can watch Netflix after you do a puzzle, after you color a picture, after you go grab a book and read it to me, after you play with this Play-Doh. And I'm still a little hesitant to really push the worksheets and the packets and stuff, Jen, because I just think, like you said, it's an opportunity for them, for all of us, to choose
Mhm.
how we want to engage. Like learning, I think we often separate like from kids and adults. For me, I'm looking at this for my kids as an opportunity for them to have unstructured
Yeah.
and exploratory learning opportunities. Like, what is it that you want to learn about today? And I think we may be unique in that our house is sort of set up like it. When I looked at my playroom yesterday, I was like, this looks like Sinners. Like you
Mhm.
have a kitchen area, you have a Play-Doh area, you have an art area, you have like the stuffed animals in the house, and so there's like this kind of looks like this and puzzles and books. It looks like Sinners, balls and blocks. So I'm like, this is still learning. It's
Mhm.
just not structured, and I think we can look at our work that way as well. This is the time that I'm finally going to read Just Mercy. I've
Yeah.
never read Just Mercy, and
Mhm.
I work with the school to prison pipeline,
Mhm.
and I hadn't had a moment to read it because of sort of what we talked about last week, where with Christian, where we talked about vicarious trauma and how I'm like, I don't need to read that. I see it every day. I
Mhm.
don't need to read it. I want to read it, but I don't know that I can read that and come
Yeah.
in here and face this every day. This to me is an opportunity, like you said, Jen, for us to say, I'm going to read this book.
Yeah.
I'm going to check out this study, or I'm going to read a book that I just want to read because I'm going to do some of
Yeah.
that too. I want to finish Song of Solomon. But I think it's a really cool chance for those of us who are doing this work who feel drawn to say, I'm going to set aside a few hours a day to do professional development, to take up
I
my
think it's
mantle
a
if you
great
want.
time to get a training, and I'm not doing this
Mhm.
as a plug, but it is a great time for you to get some training. Those of you who've been saying,
Plug.
I don't have a time, plug, I don't have time. I got a free grant writing training that's coming up. I'm running a really amazing special, calling it the Convid special on
Mm.
putting together your fundraising plan. For those of you
Mhm.
who have not planned, we're talking about what we were speaking about previously about being
Mhm.
prepared financially, being prepared, to be able to close your doors and not feel like, oh my gosh, when I come back, I'm not going to have the resources, because that's not how a business can run and or
Mhm.
operate. And so I'm looking at this as an opportunity for those of you who've been too busy with all kinds of meetings and trainings and going here and going there and program this and program that. Now is a time to really develop yourself in the areas that you feel like, I need that. I know it's the time and I can focus on it. Use this
Mhm.
as that opportunity,
Yeah.
this is another myth that organizations, that it's harder to raise money during a crisis, when in fact,
Mm.
through every crisis, organizations have raised more money across the board. Anywhere between
Yeah.
7 to 12% more money have been contributed to the nonprofit by individuals, by businesses and corporations. Why? Because again, we do the work that businesses cannot do and that the
Mhm.
government cannot do. This is also an opportunity to plan a diverse funding stream. I was approached yesterday by someone who said, "Well, our money comes from the government." I'm like, "Well, honey, they you're going to be last on the list of who gets paid. This is your opportunity to diversify." What do I mean by that?
Mhm.
That means identify other streams of income for your organization. This is a time to really think about where else and how else can we create revenue. People are always going to need services, always.
Mhm.
Always. It doesn't matter what your program is. Your program is needed right now. But if you can't go in to do your program because you serve a large number or because of social distancing, you have to close your doors. It is a myth and a lie to think, oh, people don't have it to give. It's not true.
Mm.
Organizations have always maintained and grown. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question, Miss Jen. When you say that people raise during crisis, the amount of donations go up, do
Mhm.
you think that is specific to organization? Like for instance, I can imagine right now, local food banks
Mhm.
having an influx of people coming in needing support because these kids are out of school. People, I can imagine an organization like that saying, hey, we need your help right now because we know what's going on. Da, 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 da. Are you saying that this is across the board, or is it specific to orgs that are more, I guess, obviously supportive of whatever that crisis is during that time.
I
Is that
think it's
question?
across the board, and we can
Really?
take every mission, every organization, and tie it to this crisis, right?
Really?
So if we're talking about, let's do a moment of coaching, a laser
I'm
coaching.
so
All
I'm
right.
intrigued. I'm like,
All
what?
right, so let's do it. You name any cause, and I can show you how during the time of crisis like this
Uh-huh.
specifically, how they can create an impact message that is relevant to their donors. Now,
You know where I'm gonna
this is
start.
not rehearsed. This is off the cuff,
No.
and we're gonna see if I'm really the nonprofit expert or not.
Also, for the record, we never rehearse, y'all. I want y'all to know that.
True.
She texts me and she's like, all right, I'm in here. And I'm like, all right, I'm coming. And we get in here and we talk to y'all. So this is not rehearsed. It's like nothing ever is with me in this one. Okay. So I'm gonna be obvious. I'm gonna start with the obvious.
Mhm,
Our mission is to interrupt the school to prison pipeline
mhm.
via advocacy, education, and direct services. What does that have to do with the Rona?
The Rona is around so advocacy and school to prison pipeline, right? So now
Yes.
kids are not able to go to school.
Hmm.
They are forced on possibly some type of curfew. I heard the word curfew yesterday.
Mm,
Social distancing is something that they're not used to. And being
right.
isolated and alone can be something where they're drawn to problems. Let's get into something. So, how can your organization, to your contributors, you could talk about there could be online seeds camp, right?
Mm.
There could be a virtual seeds camp where
Hmm.
individuals who are able to have access to their computers, to their phones, can come in and hear coaching and be interactive, right? Making it
Hmm.
an interactive platform where they are engaged and not left to their own devices to go out and to get into trouble, particularly if they are left alone. You know, if their family members or their parents are having to work and they're left alone,
Hmm.
the seeds can create a virtual space
Hmm.
that is connecting with these teens, checking in with these teens, right?
Don't
And
make me say on live that I'm not going to do that. But this is awesome.
that they can create a virtual coronavirus camp, you know, using that theme. And what is needed from the donors and contributors are the
Hmm.
support, right? For materials, for supplies, those things that you would naturally need even after this is over. You still are
Right.
going to need. You still need time. You still need staff. You still, you know, you're
Hmm.
still enabling the organization to hire the people that need to work in order to provide these services. And it's
Hmm.
just going to be done in a different platform, but the need is still being met, right? That during the
Right.
time when school cannot happen, we can even provide virtual tutoring opportunities, right? If there are any teachers who were like can't go to school and feeling like, oh my gosh, I got an hour or so for mentoring, you could do virtual mentoring sessions even, you know, during this time. How'd I do?
That's great. That's something actually I considered but not in the first 2 weeks. I just feel like the first 2 weeks we can everybody relax. But I think going forward, I'm speaking for seeds. I am not advising anyone to make that decision. I'm just speaking for my organization. In the first 2 weeks, it's okay for us to say,
Mhm,
let's just see what happens.
mhm.
But I did consider because, and I'm not trying to create any kind of crazy stuff, Jen, but I have this feeling that this is going to extend way past 2 weeks. I don't have any proof that it's just something that I feel. And so, knowing that and knowing the demographic that I work with, I did consider what you just talked about, which is virtual mentoring,
Mhm.
which is providing a way for our kids and us to all kind of jump onto a group Zoom. Our kids love to be the center of attention. Our Instagram page has a huge following. Compared to most of our kids, we have like 1,500 followers, and to them, that's just like Ms. Z, put me on the page, put me on the page. So I was thinking about doing like a live, check in with them. This is not until after week 2. Hear my heart. I'm not doing anything to after next week, but like go live and say, hey, this is what's going on, and then offer them opportunities to check in and give, on live, say, hey, this is what I've been up to on the break, this is what I've been, doing and not doing, here's how I'm doing on my homework, because they really a lot of times just want
Yeah.
to be visible.
That's it.
And if what I have to offer is visibility for exchange for them to engage me, because that was more my concern than anything. If I say we're gonna do an online workshop, my kids are like, I'm not coming. If I
Mhm,
say I just want to hang out and check on y'all and let y'all talk,
mhm,
which is fine, which is impactful
mhm,
because it's a check-in. That's
mhm,
mentoring, really.
mhm,
Um, I can do that. The other thing I considered, because a lot of our kids live at or below the poverty line, especially after next week, if this
mhm,
continues the way that it is, doing I don't want to call it a food drive, but sort of like a food drive where we do our own, boxes and bags of things and take them to the families. Because I have kids, as you know, Jen,
yeah,
as you well know,
mhm,
who even when we're not in crisis, I get probably 4 or 5 um, messages or phone calls a week from my teens who don't have enough food. And so that's really who's more on my heart and mind these days than anybody. I haven't been able to personally say that I have the capacity right now because I think that's a piece of it, Jen. I think we have to be honest about our assessment of what we can do.
mhm,
Um, on Friday, when it was still very something in me, Friday said, this is serious.
mhm,
Go home and stay home. Something before it even start, I was like, I'm gonna do for myself what I feel led to do, and I'm gonna stay at home. Sure enough, Friday afternoon, I had a kid saying to Z, we don't have any food. I don't know what we're gonna do this weekend because they aren't sending bags home this weekend, which is also scary because
yeah,
that's this is the start of it for so many of our kids. Um, and you know what I did? I just cash out the $40
mhm,
because to me, um, that's what needed to be done. So it's that same thing, Jen, where it's like we have to be honest with ourselves. Like you said, you're like, I want to ask myself, how can I help? And that's what I said that day. I was like, do I feel comfortable taking groceries over there? I don't really right now. I feel more comfortable just giving you the access to the resources that you need to get, what you need for you and your family. And I think that we can be thoughtful about it for sure. That's a good one. I did see one really cool thing that I appreciated. Um, well, two things. One, I got an email yesterday from a fellow ED, and there were about 22 of us copied on the email, and including like 2 or 3 of my funders, which I found just really interesting. Like all of a sudden now we are all having to face these same issues. I meant to send it to y'all. Some it's really interesting, and
okay,
they were just saying, "Hey, we just want to, you know, um, create a like sort of a thread where we can talk about how we can support each other through this because a lot of us have not done this before and just figuring out what to do." They were even talking about stuff as far as like work from home policies. A lot of people don't have those. And Jen, I actually have a friend, Jada Willis. She owns a company called Willis Professional Services, and she released a free uh, template for work from home policies that you can specify for if you run a nonprofit or for profit, whatever it is, which I thought was really
awesome,
um,
awesome,
awesome
mhm,
stuff that can take the guesswork out of it for you. And I think even when I'm thinking about seeds and definitely the mentoring piece, but also that like a lot of times our kids come to us because they're hungry.
yeah,
They know no matter what, if they come to seeds, if they see them, they're gonna eat.
mhm,
Um, it was helpful to see all of the different nonprofits in the thread and see what some of them are having to respond to. And for us, as like you said, as partners to say, here's how we can help, not just individuals, here's
and
how we
that's
can help you.
my point, that
Hmm.
organizations do not lose during the times of crisis when they're
Hmm.
able to really strengthen their connections,
Yeah.
really turn to each other and their donors. They respond
Hmm.
across the board. You can, more millionaires are birthed out of depressions. More
Mm.
millionaires are birthed out
Yeah.
of depressions. So this is a
Mm.
time for organizations to really assess their role as a leader, assess their knowledge as a leader, and really assess how connected they are to others. We're not an island. We don't do and cannot do this life alone. We
No,
need others, and for
we do.
those who started their nonprofits and who said, I want to do it all by myself because I don't like working with people. I don't like, having to ask for anything, the faces included, y'all, all of that. I don't like having to I don't like having
The
to ask for help.
shade.
I don't like, all of this. Now is the
Right.
time. that you're going to need others. And so, to what I know through my experience, and coming up on 4 decades, and I can't even believe that I can say that with pride. It's been that long that you all, yeah, it's been a
Are
while
you?
working in this thing. It's been a while. It's been over 30 years, over 30 years, over
You
30
don't look a day over 40, Lady Jen. I'm doing this math over here. I'm talking like I don't know you, but that genuine. That was not a fake
It's
reaction.
my
That's like
mama. It's my mama. I get it from my mama. If y'all would see
you
pictures of my mama,
do.
she is super cute.
She's my favorite. I love her so much. Was she not one of the first people I checked on? I was
Yeah,
like, "How's mom?"
everyone
She's
is
in the
checking
house.
on mom. She's
Yeah,
good. She's good. Listen,
checked her by any that's what. And okay, we're getting distracted. But yes, 40 years.
she's
Sorry,
wonderful.
you're coming up on
But what
40
I'm
decades.
saying is that going through crisis, and a crisis
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to be necessarily on a national level.
Right.
There are community crises. There are things that are
Mm-hmm.
happening in our organizations, in our world every single day, right?
Yeah.
There are people who are always going to need help of a neighbor, of a
Mm-hmm.
service, um, of some type of resource. And so during this downtime, I just want us to all to be mindful that the myth of no one has it, no one has any money to give. They may not give you what they previously gave you because
Mm-hmm.
they have to take care of their own families. However, that is the need and the requirement to grow your donor base, to grow your relationships, right? That you're not
Mm-hmm.
relying on the only 5 people that you continually ask for 5 people, that even before crisis begins or during this time, you are reconnecting in a genuine way, not just because of a crisis. I'm saying that because I don't want it to feel like, oh my gosh, you're using people. No, I'm saying that as a practice, we want to make sure that we are connected in
Mm-hmm.
relationship, not just in check. Now, what happens is the people that see the work, the impact that we do, they continue to give. And we're continuing to do work. We may just do it differently and in a different format, right? We have got to be people who can think outside of the box. We've got to be people who can adjust and conform. Like, listen, I was raising money before there was any of this. There was no social media. There was no Facebook. There was no Google. There was nothing but a typewriter and whiteout. Not before the liquid kind. There was the paper kind.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm
Right.
saying is having the knowledge and the connectedness to make those adjustments to show yourself relevant,
Right.
is what I want us to take the opportunity of. That the myth of, oh my gosh, I gotta, no one is gonna give, no one, or that I've got to give them something
Mm.
to in order for them to give. That's
That's
not
it, Jen. Okay, I just had a light bulb moment. because you're right, and I think that it kind of goes along with how I can, and I'm admittedly critical of people's commitment to productivity.
Mhm.
What you're saying is that, and this is something I struggle with, where I'm like, if I say, hey, how y'all doing, this is what's going on, da, 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 like there needs to be an exchange. It's like, no, this is the mission, this is what we do, this is what we've done. We don't know what it looks like for this next 2 weeks, but we know that we are planning and trying to make sure that we're prepared if they say come back and on week 3, or don't come back until week 8. We still want to be able to make sure that we can respond to the needs of our beneficiaries, and we want to keep you guys in the loop. It's not about the production, which is for some people, Jen, let's be real, it is. But what you're saying is not that. That's
It's
not
not
what you're saying. Because I have people in my space
that.
who are working for
Mhm.
organizations that are literally just handing them a bunch of like stuff
Mhm.
to do. And I'm like, we all know that stuff doesn't matter. And why are we prioritizing that right now?
Yeah.
Like that stuff that you're handing, that's not important. Um, but what you're saying makes a lot more sense to me. That I can get behind. Hey, we want to check on you. We
Uh-huh.
want to let you know we are keeping in contact with the people who we serve and looking forward to getting back in touch with them. And you're right. It's not a matter of even saying like we want you to give to us today. It's which
Mm-mm.
is it, and it's also almost because I heard you say, oh, I had so many light bulbs just now. It's almost because it's like the opposite. It's like what people make up about it versus what it is, right? When you said, I don't want you to think I'm trying to take advantage of a crisis by reaching out during a crisis. But to me, if you're reaching out to me all the time and you don't
Exactly.
reach out in a crisis, then that means all the other times you are taking advantage of me.
Exactly.
Not in this moment, you can say hi too, because we all in a
Exactly.
crisis.
We are
Literally
in a
everybody.
crisis.
Everybody.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
that's
that's
a
good.
part of the plan. Listen, guys,
Hmm.
listen to me. I just want
Ah,
you to hear me.
you're so
That
smart.
this process does not end.
Mm-mm,
Relationship building is not based on circumstance or
mm-mm.
situation, you know?
Right,
And saying a genuinely thank you means I appreciate you. I appreciate you
right.
every day, not just because you gave me something, not just
Hmm.
because, whatever. It is that's how I see our role. And again, I am very old school and other people have ways of, approaching this thing differently. But
Hmm.
what I know works is consistency, strategy. And when I say strategy, I don't mean strategy to go out and take people's money, but
Hmm.
strategy to show yourself as relevant, as a good partner. Strategy saying, how can I use what's available to me to
Hmm.
share value and give value, not just take. I'm not
Right.
showing it for you to give. I'm showing it to you for me to give. I want to
Hmm.
give you a view of what we are here to do. I want to
Yeah.
give you an opportunity to learn more about how possibly we could help you. I want to give ear to what you think is important. To me, that's
Hmm.
what I mean by strategy. It's not like, oh, we need money. Let me strategize how I raise money. Let me strategize that's not what I
That's
mean.
what people are thinking. That's what people are doing. And it's driving me insane because I'm like, you can't do that right now. You
Yeah.
can't. I mean, you can come up with concepts right now.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? But you like people. I'm Jen. I'm jumping out of groups left and right. I'm
Yeah.
like, y'all are. This feels like the conversation that people should be having, which is really just stay connected to your donors and supporters and your beneficiaries. If there are people who come to you every day, if
Hmm.
there are people who you see or hear from every day, don't it creates, and I'm not saying overexert yourself, because again, I think we want to keep that piece really clear too. But my kids are calling me no matter what. They don't care about the coronavirus.
That's
Like
right.
they do not care about the coronavirus. Now I get to assess day to day if I have the capacity to carry on this conversation with, you know, my children are old figures.
Mhm.
I have activity outside my door.
Okay.
There's whispering and fingers under the door. But this is our new normal, right?
Yeah.
But I think we all get to assess our capacity, and it's like, you know what? I can take two client calls today,
Mhm.
and I can give them 10 minutes to just
Yeah.
hear where they are in this. And if tomorrow comes and your kids have their fingers under your bedroom door
Mhm.
for most of the day, like I don't even know why. Why? And you say, I can't do client calls today, then
Uh-huh.
don't do it.
Then
Just
don't
take it
do
day to day. Don't do it.
it.
I think this is great, Jen. I think this is good. I think we all get to reimagine our work in these moments. And I also think I'm thinking about, I remember when I was at DJJ and I was working full time and I worked on C's part time, and how frustrated I was with how I didn't feel like I could get any traction
Yeah.
with what I was trying to build. Um, I'm not necessarily talking to EDs who do this work full time. Right now, I'm talking to people who have their job
Hmm.
and are trying to build this on the side. I will say that if you feel like you have the capacity, this is an opportunity
Yeah.
to do something to make a path for an exit from your full time if
Yeah.
that's what you want.
That's
You
right.
know, it's a little different for me because Seeds is my full time, and as you know, Jen, I'm a writer, so
Mhm.
I definitely have been doing, taking the client calls here and there when I feel up to it. But
Mhm.
I'm really excited about taking some time to look at my book in
Good. Good.
format. You know what I mean? I just think it when I hear you say the word opportunity, that sounds different to me because it sounds like a choice.
Yeah.
Where the other conversations that I've heard that I've been frustrated with is like, if you want to do something with yourself, this is the part you need to produce and I'm like,
That is
no,
never what I mean. That's
and that's
never
not what
what
you say. That's not what you say, but you're graced to do this like Lady J. Because I'm telling you, I come in, y'all. I need y'all to know. I come into this room sometimes with her, and I'm like, I'm ready because I don't agree. I don't agree. Some of us are just graced to say things in a way that people will hear. Because I've been giving these people the clean, cold side eye. Like, why don't y'all just let these people rest?
Mhm.
Let them rest. Why are you criticizing them for taking some downtime? This is different. This is what you're saying. What we've discussed
Yeah.
is altogether different and something I can get behind. I would love to share this link with the thread. I'm going to share it with the thread. The people that I was talking about, that ED thread.
Yeah. Well, this
Yeah.
is what I'm doing. I am offering a financial planning, a budget planning, right?
Okay.
And when I talk about money, I always talk about impact. Always, nothing of
Mhm.
money doesn't come without impact. And so
Right.
I want us to really examine our messaging, not just in the ask, but in how can we help. People
Mhm.
respond to your showing up with assistance. And I think that every organization can do it. There is not one under the sun that I cannot think of a
Mhm.
way for you to have an impact message that does not mean give me, give me, give me during this time, but
Mhm.
will result in, and this is just from proof, not that that's what my goal was, but I know that that's the end result, right? I know what's going to happen. I just
Mhm.
know what's going to happen, y'all. I know what's
Mhm.
going to happen is that you are going to be seen as credible, as thoughtful, as intentional, as caring.
Mhm.
And people respond. Either they'll say, thank you, how can I help? Or your
Mhm.
organization is great. That's just the naturalness of the universe, that you
Mhm.
put out a seed and it comes back. But we as business people and as business leaders and wanting to do good customer service, even if they're not buying anything, a thank you and a
Mhm.
hello is nice, even if they don't
Mhm.
pick up the dress and buy it, right?
Yeah.
Thank you for coming in and thank you, so it's just that courtesy that I want to help people plan around without the stress, without the panic, without the what do I do? How do I do it? We do it by articulating impact. We do it by
Mhm.
being a good partner. I don't know if I
Yeah.
explained that well, but
You did. What I hear you saying is, I'm not teaching you how to manipulate people. I'm actually teaching you how to be a good neighbor. Like,
yeah,
this is actually what good neighbors do. This
yeah,
is what community partners do. We check in on each other. If something comes of it, that's great. That's not why I'm telling you
mhm,
to do this. This
exactly.
is how you be a compassionate. This is how you show up as compassionate and caring and consistent. And I don't think it's a
And the
bad
end
thing to teach
result
people
will
that.
be, I can say the end result will be that you will get more donors and partners. Now,
Hmm.
that's gravy. On top of it, beyond
Hmm.
that one donation, you've got a person who believes in the work that you do and sees the value
Hmm.
in it with you and
That's
will
it.
become an evangelist for the cause. That's amazing. You can't pay for that. You cannot
You
pay
can't.
for that, right?
You can't. Yeah.
So, guys, we are nonprofit leaders, and there are lots of ways to get across the room. There are countless ways to get across the room.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
we here in this conversation talk about the ways to get across the room and drop some nuggets in the way. You can walk across the room, you could run across the room, you could crawl across the room, you could walk on your hands across the room. I don't care how you get across the room, but we are here to help you get across the room in a way that is best serving you and
Hmm.
best serving your community. And if you did it one way yesterday, how about you could do it a different way today? How about that? How about we could do a new
Right.
thing? We could do something new and it be okay to
Hmm.
do a change, to do something
Yeah.
differently. All right,
Have we
guys.
talked about social capital yet, Jen? I
We
feel
have
like that's what we talked about.
not.
We should talk about that next week. That would be
All
fun.
right, y'all. Remind us, social capital is what we're going to talk about next week. Y'all, we love this show. We love this time with you.
It's
And the
fun
hour has already gone so fast. Where did it
every time.
go? Where did it
Can we
go?
do another hour? I don't really want to do Play-Doh.
She's got to go to her next responsibility. The fingers under the door
It's just the
belong
Play-Doh,
to.
Jen. It's not the kids. I just hate Play-Doh. Just can we boycott Play-Doh?
Play-Doh
Is
and
there a support
slime.
group for
Play-Doh
Play-Doh?
and slime is like, yeah, they got a
I've
market.
banned slime from my house. Slime is not allowed. I'm serious. It's not allowed here. I'm serious. I go through all birthday bags. Somebody needs to start a mission for moms against Play-Doh and slime. that is important in this time of crisis because I'm not the only mother who is having this experience.
That is hilarious.
I said what I said.
Listen, guys, we appreciate your time. We appreciate you sharing and liking and subscribing. We
Yes.
appreciate all the views and the comments. You guys loved and responded so well to our conversation last week. We hope that
Mhm.
this one has been light, has been fun, yet informative, as we talked about this virus as impacting the world. And I personally, I'm sure Zakia joins me in letting you know that
Mhm.
I pray for you, that I am encouraged by your strength and your resiliency. And I see the rainbow at the end of this storm. And we as a community can get through this together. All right. So I just want to personally say thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next week. Zakia, anything you'd like to say before we close?
Yes, stay at home if you can. Thank you all for tuning in. We will definitely see you next week from our homes. Just everybody, just be as responsible as you can during this time. That's all. I'm excited. This is good. I'm excited to share this one.
Amen. All right, guys. We'll see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.